Across the globe, governments, including the UK, are passing new online safety laws. But can they keep up with the tech giants in what Bates calls the new age of sexism?
It is old misogyny facilitated and amplified by new and emerging technologies. So we're seeing in ways in which existing forms of bias and discrimination are not just being rewritten into the building blocks of our future society, but actually risk being encoded in such a way that they're amplified. In many ways, it's about taking those existing forms of dehumanized, objectified versions of women and bringing them as close as possible to the perception that these are real, living, breathing women with everything except the ability to say no.
But what do you say to people who say, well, is it better to have people act out those violent fantasies in a virtual setting rather than in the real world?
That's been the argument for a long time, but there isn't any evidence to suggest that actually the opposite doesn't happen. Normalisation, escalation, certainly we're seeing those concerns cited by police officers who are investigating cases of childhood sexual abuse at the moment. And we wouldn't make that argument with any other type of crime, would we? We wouldn't say, oh, well, murderers have this urge, so we should make blood-spurting dummies available for them to stab, that realistically let them get the urges out, as we do with this idea that violence against women is somehow innate. It's something men can't help. That's outrageous, and it is so insulting, of course, to the vast majority of men.
But governments and regulators around the world are waking up to it. I mean, here, the creation of deepfake images is going to be made illegal. It is coming down the track.
Yes.
So does that reassure you?
I think it's a positive thing in theory, but how will that regulation in reality be imposed when we're living in a situation where we're on track to see 8 million new deepfake images created by the end of this year alone? We know that 99% of deepfakes are sexual in nature and that 96% of the victims are women. So this is a huge problem, and there needs to be ambition in terms of the scale of policy and of regulation. But if we look at the AI summit in Paris, when a group of countries agreed to a declaration that AI should be ethical and safe, and the UK and US governments refused to sign that declaration, they aren't sending particularly positive signs, I would suggest, that they are taking this seriously.
I mean, what is the solution if governments and regulators and law enforcement, if they're being outpaced by big tech itself, what is the solution here?
Well, it's really important to say that this isn't anti-tech. One way forward is to try and change the fact that only 12% of AI researchers are women, or that when venture capital people are giving funding, we know that investors give 6 times more funding to male-led AI teams than they do to women. Women are doing exciting, innovative things in this space, but they need our backing and they need our support.
And they need listening to. What is the personal toll, then, speaking out on all of this has taken on you?
For me, one of the reasons for writing this was because of experiencing a horrendous case of a man who sent me a deepfake pornographic image of himself, forcing himself on me sexually in an extremely degrading and humiliating way. And the psychological impact of that is very real. On the worst days, I can get 200 death and rape threats in a single day.
I mean, that's insane.
It is, and we should never, ever slip into the perspective of accepting that this is normal for women in the public eye. Too often I'm asked, how should women cope? You know, what are your coping mechanisms? And I always say, there are none, there shouldn't be any. This should never happen in the first place.
I mean, do you ever think it's too much, you lose hope, you can't be in this space anymore?
I never lose hope, because I am meeting constantly the incredible women at the coalface who are working in our rape crisis centres, in our frontline services, the activists and lawyers and researchers I interviewed for this book who are innovating and coming up with incredible and brilliant ways to, for example, create AI that is designed to police other AI tools and to eliminate bias. There's always hope. What I think is really difficult is when the scale of the battle is so weighted. It's very difficult to work out how we fight this when what we really need is politically brave regulation, and work out how, as digital citizens, we can ever face up to that.
Laura Bates, thanks very much.
Thank you.